carry the drums to. They say
Travel style. Got you all clapping and tapping and tapping and tapping and tapping and tapping and tapping.
First, a drum set.
B5 come to the travel drum jump. B5 come to the travel drum jump. B5 come to the travel drum jump. B5 come to the travel drum jump.
Good evening and welcome to the Do the Math Podcast. I'm your host, Devin Morgan, and it's a good day to be alive. For my personal state of the union, I can tell you that I am well hydrated. I have a belly full of home-cooked chicken curry in my stomach that is keeping me very content. But more to the point of tonight's episode, I'm very happy to say that the man to my right is MC. He's an artist. He has been doing it in Seattle for as long as I've known him, part of what has been called the Mirari Empire. And he's my man, my comrade for 20 years.
Yes, sir.
My man Draze.
What's happening?
What's up, G?
I'm finally up here in the room in the booth, man,
Yeah.
where it goes down. So.
Yeah. And
so you had curry for dinner?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. The wife did very nice.
I did chicken with greens that was Zimbabwean greens.
Okay.
So I made them myself and a little sweet potatoes.
You can't go wrong with sweet potatoes.
No.
I see like all the paleo guys are like all on the sweet potato now, and it's like, if you haven't been eating sweet potatoes for the last 10 years, once you get out of like your kid palate where you don't eat shit,
Right.
when you can't go wrong with sweet potato.
I'm gonna tell you who has a mean sweet potato. My lady's the one, she Googled, it was Keyshawn Johnson, the football player, his mom's recipe. So we downloaded that. That's what we rock and roll with. Hey, shout out to Keyshawn Johnson's mom. She actually has a mean recipe. So.
Man, I'm gonna warm up my Google fingers right now. I'm gonna look that up.
Right. Go get that.
Yeah, man. So shout out to another Franklin High School alumni, my man Larry Mizell Jr.
Shout out.
We've had a nice mix of Garfield and Franklin alumni on the podcast so far. We're going to continue to keep it that way, so I don't really completely betray my roots. But shout out to my guy Larry for the concept that I'm about to borrow right now, which is his conflict of interest alert horns. If I had the soundboard, I'd be banging on him right now. To tell you that I had the privilege of directing the video for my man's new song, which is called "The Hood Ain't the Same," and it's kind of sort of blowing up a little bit.
Yeah, we're doing okay.
We're doing all right.
We're doing all right. We're right at where we want to be.
Yeah, and through the long gestation period of getting that project like shot and done, we were just talking about this. It's so weird the way that it came out, because the video was actually done last summer.
Yep.
We finally wrapped after a couple like days and pickup shots, and you shot some other stuff. The critical scene at Richards, absolutely critical, and it's perfect the way that it's in the video.
It is. Everything worked out just dope.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's amazing to see the video. You have a vision in your head. We put something together. The Hood Ain't the Same goes live. I think what's probably big for me is just watching how people are responding to it. I've had people who don't rock with me, like who just don't fool with me. Now, they didn't say it to me, but they've said it to other people and been like, that video's dope.
Well, you certainly can't tell someone that you appreciate your work.
Right.
That's you're violating a number of different codes.
Right. Nah, but I mean, it really is a memorial to the hood. I never really thought about it. So, the video's a part of the 50 Next project. Right?
Shout out to 50 Next.
Shout out to 50 Next.
Shout out to Jasmine, Aaron, Steve.
Sneed, yes.
Yes.
And so the 50 Next was the concept behind 50 Next is to commemorate the Space Needle turning 50, right? And so they wanted to create a compilation of hip hop music just as a celebration of that.
And they really got 50 tracks on there.
Yeah.
One of which by the Ghetto Children. Shout out to Tribal Productions to keep it real topical.
But it's amazing to see this song not only be a part of that, but as it's launched from that. When I think about the video, it really does like commemorate. Like, this stuff really won't be here 50 years from now.
Yeah.
You'll look back at stuff in the video like when you look at Silver Fork, right? So we got the Silver Fork. It's a shell. It's just a building. There's nobody in there, but we got the Silver Fork. 50 years from now, there's going to be a gas station there. Those people driving down the street will never have known about the Silver Fork. We'll be 80, 90 years young. You know what I'm saying? No one's going to be thinking about that.
Yeah.
And so this song becomes, and this video becomes something that people can look at and literally go back and be like, well, what was that? And what was this place? And what was that? So it's kind of dope.
Yeah, and you know, I was reading an interview that you had actually given. It was what was the Portland paper?
The Scanner.
Yeah. And you were recounting the experience that I actually talked to my man Freedom about last time, of when we were outside Mount Zion, and the police officer who I'm sure I'd like to think was like well intentioned.
Yes.
When she said to me that we shouldn't be using the word gentrification.
Right.
And even aside from like kind of the Orwellian like thought police angle, which is rather bothersome, that's just a real, I don't know, you know, there's something there that I think is indicative of like the larger societal machine that's not really tuned in to kind of this concern.
Well, it's an agenda. Well, first, let's bring them in. So here's what happened. We're out shooting a video. We're at Mount Zion. So in the process of us sitting at Mount Zion, we're shooting. We're a pirate. Okay? Let's be honest. We went to Franklin. We do it raw. So we're sitting out there. We're just shooting. So we're shooting the building. We're shooting Mount Zion. In the process of that, some people came out from the church.
There's a deacon that came out, who again, I'm sure had no ill intent.
You're so much better than me.
Man, I'm trying.
The deacon comes out and he asks us why we're shooting and what are we shooting, and we can't be shooting. We need to get clearances, et cetera, et cetera.
There was a lot of concern about the way that the church would be portrayed, and I think a misconstrued idea of what they had authority over what we could and could not shoot.
Right.
Which, no, dog, you can't.
Right. But shout out to Pastor Aaron Williams, who was the reverend over there, because he came out and he literally said, look, shoot. What do you guys want to shoot? He listened. Gentrification. Here's the video. Here's the project. He said, I love it. Shoot it. And we were like, you want to be in it? He was like, yeah, shoot me right here, right now.
Yeah, and was kind enough to do it. So, so thank you, sir.
Yes.
Because honestly, that's one of my favorite shots in the video.
It is.
When you consider what the institution of obviously African American churches in general, but Mount Zion and Seattle in particular. The last time that I was actually at Mount Zion was for Tizzy T's funeral.
Okay.
Shout out to Narcotics. Shout out to Tizzy T. Keep it lit. C Note, my brother. And it was one of those. It was one of those events where you could just tell the love that poured out of that building that day.
And it's always like that.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you, Mount Zion, it's the most historically black church in the state of Washington, the first one, and it's the same thing. I just went there for. They had an event. Reverend McKinney. They named the street after Reverend McKinney, so I went to that event. I just wanted to be in there to see it, to experience it for myself, and actually got to hear him teach and preach that day. So that was kind of cool.
That's dope.
To kind of hear somebody, a living legend, speak, and he spoke about gentrification. He spoke about walking down the street in Seattle these days and having somebody look at him and say, like, "Are you lost?" And he's thinking, like, "I've been here for over 40 years. How am I lost?
Yeah.
I brought Martin Luther King here." You know what I'm saying? Like, how am I lost? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, it's kind of cool.
Yeah. So we had that experience shooting the Mount Zion scene for the video.
Yeah. Oh wait, and then we'll just to wrap it up for you guys. In the process of that, there was a police officer who showed up. The police officer shows up and she's asking us why we're shooting. I guess she was called. I don't know if she was called or wasn't called.
I think she claimed that she would just happen to be there.
Okay.
Okay,
right. So she actually says to us, "Hey, why are you guys shooting?" we start explaining what the video was about. The pastor is there. He's with us. We're all good. And she goes on to tell Devin that he should not use the term gentrification. So, yeah.
And I don't know if that was like a. I don't know if that was like a. I don't know what her intent there.
Remember, she said though, she's like gentrification. Remember, because I asked, why don't you want us to use the term gentrification? She says, well, to black people, it communicates that white people are coming to take your community from you. And I looked at her like, no, it doesn't.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's a little bit more nuanced than drawing on a simple color line,
Right.
Because you know, a lot of. I mean, it's not because this isn't something that just affects the African American population in Seattle in general. Because you know, the Asian population, the Hispanic population is all being affected by this.
Right.
You know, it's a long running thing. You know, this turnover of that South End and Central District area, which you know, before that was heavily Italian, and before that was heavily Jewish, and then due to you know, some hard and soft enforced lines of segregation, ended up being the home of a predominant portion of Seattle's African American community.
Mm-hmm.
But coming from a police officer, I'm trying to be positive here. I'm sure that she was trying to.
You're better than me. I mean, I'm saying again, you're better than me. I'm looking to be like, no.
I'm sure she was trying to be helpful, but the fact of the matter is that the gentrification, you know, if the problem is your definition of the word is wrong,
right?
Because that's what it is. That's what it is. It's gentrification.
Right.
You know, and one of the things that you talked about in that article was, I think, a conversation that we had about a similar phenomenon, but that's not as distressing when it happens in Ballard. You know, when you see the changes that go on in Ballard right now, you know, it's a trip. It is a complete trip because that place is turning into you know, high-rise condo central.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm sure ostensibly to improve our population density, because if we have more people here, we have more taxpayers, and if we have more taxpayers, we have more tax revenue. But in that effort, you know, you're taking landmarks of a community that get chucked out the window.
And it's happening throughout the city. I mean, the cool part is I don't know, I think I've found myself now finally getting really into the solution point of it. The song is allowing people to grieve. I think it has to happen. You got to allow people to express and to create conversation. I'm really now finding myself in the mayor's office, sitting down with councilmen, all these different places, working on solutions. What can be done? How do we rebuild? Where do we go? How do we get there? So in essence, the song is kind of taking on a deeper purpose. You know what I'm saying? It's leading people to start a discussion. We're finding ourselves with articles in all the papers: Seattle Times, Seattle Magazine, the Scanner, like you said,
Yep.
South District Journal, Beacon Hill News. Everybody, the stranger, everybody has chimed in and posted the video and gotten it out to the city. So it's a nice buzz. But the obvious next question is, what do we do?
Right.
Whether it's Ballard, the CD, the South End, whatever, wherever you're from, what's the answer to it?
Right. And I guess I should clarify. I don't think, I don't believe that if you even call it gentrification in the north end of Seattle or areas that are predominantly Caucasian, that there's a one-to-one relationship between that and what's happening in the CD and the South End. So let me just say that before anybody's like, the fuck are you talking about? So hi haters, just smooth that one right on out, because it's not the same thing. It's absolutely not, and a lot of that has to do with cultural centers. You know, this isn't like the bowling alley off of 15th and Market in Ballard that's no longer there.
Right. Well, it also has to do with with who we are as a people, right? So it's not the same. It's who, like, nobody is an island, right? And I mean that in, like, when you think about our history, we're all attached to our history. So if you think about the history in America of African Americans, you have a people displaced from Africa, so they're here. So now they're trying to build roots, and every time you try to build roots, something is done to you to not allow those roots to take root. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you talk crack cocaine, so you get the communities are flooded with crack. We're just recovering from crack.
Right.
So can we at least get? Can we get? You almost feel like yo, can I get like 50 years in a community just to kind of get on my feet?
And that's
unbothered.
And that's real, because stability, communal stability,
There you go.
is it's the foundation of how you establish history, how you establish
Legacy.
lineage and legacy and all of these things. And it's like there hasn't been 50 years.
No, you can't track it. Not without a major wave or conspiracy. For instance, when we mention in the song, I'm talking about weed and seed.
Yeah.
So you're gonna put mandatory drug laws on youth who have drugs, and you're gonna put these drug laws in place
that are disproportionately affecting
African
Americans, because just in case you don't know, your penalties for freebase cocaine, crack cocaine are up here. Penalties for coke are like way down here. What's like right out of frame?
Right.
It's hard not to discern that there is a motive there for that disparity.
It's racism.
Of course it is.
Right. It's racism.
Of course it is.
So when you're doing those types of things, that's just one. It's an example. But when you're doing 15 different things like that, it's hard for us to plant roots. So then when you put something like gentrification in the mix, it becomes a problem, because it's like, yo, we just want to plant roots and build. So when someone says, oh, there's something wrong with their community, they don't care about education, or their youth are gang members or whatever, it's like, nah, this system is failing us. And if you would leave us alone for like 50, 60 years and let us have a community and build, some of that will weed out. That takes time.
Right.
In a community, right? It takes time in a person. If I'm hooked on a drug, right, it's gonna take me time. I first have to face my problem and say, you know what, I got a problem with cocaine. Now I need help. Then I have to figure out how I'm gonna get help. Then I have to weed it out. Then I have to change my lifestyle so that that's not a part of me. When a community has to go through that same process, it can take 30 years. You see what I'm saying? But we're never given the opportunity to do that. We're just getting over crack cocaine, and now you're going to turn around and look at us and say, okay, now we want to move you and we want to break you up. So now the connection that you need in a community is being broken because we don't have a community.
Right, and that's kind of the defining difference between the gentrification in Ballard and the gentrification in the Central District.
Ding, ding, ding.
Right, and not to mention the fact that the geographic tightness of Seattle's African American community is definitively due to segregation.
Right.
It's not like white people were chucked in Ballard and they were like, well, this is the only place you could be, and then we're going to move you, and it has this extra emphasis. That doesn't transpire.
Right.
But that is what's happening. That's kind of the long tail pain of this whole thing.
And then couple in the fact that we're like 4 to 6% of the population.
Right.
So I mean, it's all these different overlining facts. So it's not just one thing. It's everything. There's all these different contributing factors, and we're not going to talk about what we are in the jail population or anything. You know what I'm saying? We're just saying.
Oh, you mean in the for-profit prisons?
Right. Exactly.
For-profit. Break that fucking sentence down. For-profit prisons. That's like. That is 100%.
Shout out to Michael Jeffrey Jordan.
Man, that is 100% real shit. I just read an article the other day about some judge in PA, maybe, that was getting paid off to send young boys to to like, you know, juvenile institutions and prisons. Of course, don't listen to what the fuck I'm saying. Google that shit yourself. But the guy got caked up off of sending kids out, and invariably they're getting, you know, abused and harassed, and not to mention just basically broken, because that's what jail does to you. It puts you in a state where
you're gonna be a slave. You're a slave. You're either going to, when you're in jail, you're either going to work for the slave master, or you're going to solitary confinement, which makes you crazy. So you are forced. It's not a whip, but you're still a slave. You're going to go here, you're going to be in jail, and you're going to make what we tell you to make, right? Under the incentive that this is a job. Oh, we just want to teach you how to, you know, get ready for society. You're not going back to society, man. We want you in this system.
No, because you know, the thing that I think binds us together as a society a lot of times is this idea that that progress and stability are possible. You send someone to jail and you take away all that shit. You know, I heard somebody the other day was giving out some stats about like the recidivism rates for guys that are on house arrest, or that kind of like in-home detention versus prison. You go to prison, which presumably, well, that's, you know, that's the idea behind going to prison is that, well, this is the ultimate punishment, so you should have the ultimate incentive to not go back there again. Well, what you find is that guys go to prison, and through the costs of that, not only for what prison does to you, but what it strips from you when you get out, you know, that you no longer have any incentive because you're not grounded. You can't get a job.
Right.
You're a pariah in the community. So what are you going to do? Well, if you strip away all my other avenues, right? If I have no job and I have no prospects and I still have to provide for myself or my family, well, guess what? I'm probably going to end up doing the same shit that put me in jail in the first place.
I got to eat somehow.
On house arrest, on the other hand, you're still participating in life. You know, you don't strip all those things away. So by virtue of the absence of that kind of like that soft cost, it's not even soft, but that kind of secondary cost of prison, is that when you are done, you still get to participate.
Right.
You know, like, and we're still, you know, meeting out this this punishment or whatever, which I mean you have to have, I guess.
You do. I just, it's a broken system. What you're talking about now is a system that is completely broken and really needs an overhaul. But that's a large undertaking.
As my man Fleeta Partee would say, the system needs an enema. He's on that one. Shout out to Fleeta. So yeah, so I mean this gentrification thing is an issue that definitely needs to be unpacked.
So let me ask you a question. What made you do the video?
Well, do we? I mean, if you want to really be real about it, the reason that I did the video is not so dissimilar than the reason I do this podcast and the reason that I've written about artists, hip-hop artists that have come out of Seattle that were impactful to me. Because I still come from this era. I mean, Jake and I talked about this before. It's like if you don't acknowledge the idea as a white person to participate in hip hop and take in this culture, which quite literally like saved my life. You know, like I have listened, you know, through some of my darkest days, use hip hop music to like work through that shit. And I know I'm not the only person that has kind of that story.
Right.
But the reality is that I kind of feel like there was a debt. You know what I mean? And even if there isn't a debt, you know, if you love something so much, you want to give back to it. It's like, you know,
natural response. Yeah,
it's like, you know, you go to church and you feel inspired, so you want to tithe, or you want to usher, or you want to volunteer, or you want to, you know, I mean, without being too corny about it, you know, hip hop has kind of served that that capacity in my life. So yeah, you know, why wouldn't I want to do that project? You know, and especially because, and I've said this before, so I guess I'll keep, you know, banging this drum. You know, the 4 years that I had at Franklin High School, and I didn't grow up in the CD, I didn't grow up in the South End. mandatory busing was good for me. You know, it was.
Right.
It unilaterally was, and
Yeah.
and I look at you know, just the benefit that I had and the privilege of being able to open up my perspective on you know, on human being existence that's different than mine. Not that yeah, I mean, it's just it's a beautiful community.
It worked out for you to be able to experience it firsthand.
For
And it
sure.
strips away so much. You
For
know what I'm saying?
sure.
It strips away any ideals that you may have about people, any stereotypes. When you know people firsthand, yeah, it strips all of that away.
Yeah, I mean, and especially in high school,
Mhm.
you know, there's something to be said about going through that stage of life with people that are different than you.
Yep.
At least from a from a melanin content, because you take that away and it's like, well, we're all kind of young men
Yep.
that are really trying really hard to figure shit out.
Well, I think what you just said is something that if people could grasp, it's very similar. I'll say it like this: we're all really the same, but then we're all very different.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of both of those at the same time
Yeah.
existing. And it almost says the reality for me is if I grew up in your community, I could, assuming that my melanin content wasn't the same, but if I grew up in your community, I could end up just like you, and if you grew up in mine, you could end up like me. That is at the core something that gets people to understand we're equal.
Yeah, it's a universal truth.
Right.
But it's not universally understood.
Agreed.
So you know, for me specifically, again, you know, shout out to my mom for sending me to Franklin High School.
Shout out to moms.
Yeah. Shout out to my sister too.
Yeah.
Shout out to my sister because she's back from Spain, and we're glad that she's back. And,
Can I say this? People don't really know this. They don't know about. So Devin and I met in a class. We had class at Franklin. It was humanities classes.
Yep.
And in the humanities classes, yeah, I was like the only black guy, right? So, and I was okay with that.
Tommy too. Tommy Mitchell, right?
Yeah, there was a couple of shout out to Tommy Mitchell.
Shout out to Tommy, who put me on the Herm Lewis tape back in the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we got so we would be in class, and then we had Mr. Nagel.
Yep.
Remember?
Yep.
And
Law and Society.
Yeah, we had Law and Society class, and in those classes we'd have to do like these mock trials, and so we hooked up as the lawyer tandem, and we never lost one match.
Nah, son.
We could take any side of the argument. You want us to be the prosecutor or the defendant? Didn't matter what the case was. Once we got going,
yeah,
it got to the point where in the class people didn't really want to face us. We should have been lawyers.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Lost. Yeah.
I'm just talking about the money difference right now.
Yeah, but there's a lot of lawyers that are indebted. You know, they're like indentured servants. You know, I mean, you know, you spend, you know, your first 5, 8, 10 years out of law school working
Right.
80 hours a week.
I'm clowning.
I know.
There's absolutely no way. All of that reading, that's what would have killed me. I love to read.
Yeah.
That stuff is boring.
Yeah, I couldn't have been a lawyer. I couldn't have been a lawyer. But within the confines of the framework of what it meant to be a pretendo lawyer,
It was awesome.
in high school,
It was awesome.
we served them up.
Yeah.
We served them up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how we met. Just for those who are still with us, you got a chance to see kind of Franklin High School, man. That's how we met. And
Yeah.
some years later, we're here shooting a video.
Yeah, you know, in my experience at Franklin was interesting in the sense because the first year I was there, I was not in that humanities program.
Oh.
I was in just kind of regular whatever. I didn't know that was a thing.
Okay.
And I remember very clearly, you know, like the first time that it was like the English class or whatever, it was down on the ground floor, and we were doing like spelling tests. I was like, word? We're doing spelling? Like for real?
In high school?
Yeah, man.
Right.
And but it gave me a perspective of like, well, maybe this is the reality of what the Seattle Public Schools kind of gives you. you know, and I had a friend who had this is some years later, a friend of mine, her sister was at Garfield in their AP program. And she had kind of a similar thing where it was like the AP program at Garfield, you know, back in the day, they had everything that we had in humanities. For those of them not in AP at Garfield, you had books that were falling apart, that were printed like, you know, they were like printed like mid-civil rights movement. And that's American history. You know, and it was just it's a vast divide of kind of what's being given to children in schools at that time. And it kind of taught me, you know, to really appreciate what we had in the humanities, because it was like it was much more nuanced and advanced than that, you know.
Well, I mean, my mom was one of those people who she was on my head, so she was like, "You're gonna be in this humanities program, or you're not gonna go to Franklin High."
Right.
And so it was just one of those like, look, you're gonna get a real education. You're gonna be challenged. You're gonna have to think outside the box. You're not gonna be status quo. So there were a lot of things that were mandatory in my home that probably weren't mandatory in everyone's home.
Right.
But it was just because my mom wanted to give us a different experience.
Right.
You know. But I loved Franklin. I mean, there's.
How could you not?
Yes. I loved everything about it, man. I mean.
Yeah. Shout out to Garfield for winning the championship this year, but wake me up when you do it 2 times back to back. I'm kidding, obviously.
I'm not. You know what? I actually rooted for Garfield this year.
Well, how could you not? At this point, man, Issaquah, what's wrong with you?
Right.
The fuck is going on in Issaquah?
Right. Oh, for those who don't know, who are not in the state, so you're out the country and you're watching this, Issaquah is a school from a predominantly Caucasian side of town.
And a very affluent one at that.
Right. And so in Issaquah, there were some students who made some racist remarks about people at Garfield. And so at that point, while I don't like Garfield, while I hate Garfield, right? Okay.
Let's be real.
At that point, I switched and said, hold on here. There are some bigger forces at play here. And so I rooted for Garfield to actually win. And they did.
And they did. And, you know, to anybody that really thought that Barack Obama being elected president was going to put us in this post-racial age, you know, you have a very misunderstood and not clear understanding of some of the deep-seated issues of classism and racism that are being perpetuated to this day, because the shit doesn't happen in, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. I mean, it's just...
the only thing that's going to get us there, honestly, is going to have to be real change, which comes through conversation.
So to that point,
education.
yeah. So to that point, I was just reading an article this evening where they said, and this is just beautiful, the administration and some student body leaders at Garfield reached out to their peers at Issaquah and said, "Let's talk.
Wow.
Let's meet. Let's talk." And
I love it.
Yeah, and you know
what I love about it? I'm gonna be honest. That's just sticking it to them. It's to come in and say, "I'm gonna be bigger than you." So here you are. You're coming at me with racism and calling me monkeys, etc. And I'm gonna come back at you with, "Well, let's talk."
Right.
Which at the end of the day has always been. That was what Martin Luther King did. His nonviolent movement was one that said, let's talk, let's have a discussion. Why? Because I can expose through conversation what is good and what is bad. Through conversation, we can expose the truth. And not only that, we can all grow through this conversation. But as long as you're going to stay in Issaquah and I'm going to stay over here in the CD and we're not going to talk, we're never going to see our commonalities. We're never going to see how words hurt. We're never going to see any of that. So brilliant move by Garfield. They're a little smarter over there at Garfield than I thought, huh?
Yeah,
they're not all dummies, huh? That's what's up.
A little bit, and you know, I can accept that kind of disgusting shit happens with kind of two motivations. You've got like people of privilege that are kind of like just hardcore, like they really believe that shit. And I think the other part of it is people that they don't know you, so they don't care. There's no cost.
I think it's both.
Yeah, and kids, I think can have like a predisposition to just say ugly shit sometimes, which doesn't excuse it and doesn't suggest that there shouldn't be cost. But I think sometimes kids are going to do that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But they're only going to do it in that kind of framework where it's just so embarrassingly repugnant when one of those two things occur, where you really believe that shit, or if you're surrounded by your own enclave and you never step outside of your own community, you don't go to understand, this kind of what we were talking about, like this universal truth of life. That if you were in their shoes, your life could be just like theirs, and vice versa. If you never come to understand that shit, then you don't give a fuck. Like, it's just like, yeah, I'll say whatever horrible shit that comes to my mind.
Well, it's kind of like, it literally is. You remember the old school Eddie Murphy, Dan Aykroyd film, right? Trading Places.
Yeah.
So you got Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd, and then Mortimer, Duke, and Randolph.
Yes.
They make the bet, and the bet is that, okay, if we switch these two guys' lives, one of them's like, there's no, like, the bottom line of what is he saying is blacks and whites are not the same.
Right.
Right? If we switch their lives, the same outcome wouldn't happen. That's why I said earlier, my concept in saying that I am like you and you're like me. We're very much the same, but we're very much different. We're different because we're culturally different, right? We're not the same. We have been evolved into two completely different people. But before the evolution, if you took that white kid and you put him in my shoes, and you took me and put him in his shoes, the outcome is very much the same.
Yep.
Black people, whites can be hooked on crack cocaine and blacks can be hooked on crystal meth. It can happen both ways. We're exactly the same at the core of it, right? And so that kid who wrote that, you're right, he doesn't think they're the same. He hasn't. His paradigm has taught him, blacks, you're just different than that. They're no different than we are. At the core of who you are, right? So at the soul level, you're exactly the same. Are you different now? Yeah, we're wildly different. We think different, we act different, we talk different, but we have become different. So we're the same in value, right? But we're different in culture.
For sure. That's great. That's great right there.
Mm-hmm.
We're different, yeah. And and what could happen, again, if the glass is half full, then what could happen via the internet, because you can touch everybody and anywhere, is you can expose yourself, at least on kind of a surface level, to lives that are different than yours, and you can come to understand and appreciate the vast similarities that we share,
right? And
also respect the differences in culture.
Right. Well, that's the part that for me needs to happen. The respect to the differences, right? I'm all for diversity. I just think I have a different definition of diversity than many people do. And so when I say diversity, a diversity that causes me to not be a black man isn't diversity to me. That's murder, right? You want to get rid of me. I'm not for mixing. I'm not for the melting pot where we all become one mind, one person. That's an agenda. I don't have any time for that. I am for the diversity that says we are all Americans. We all live here. There can be a Africa town. There could be Chinatown, and it's still in America, right? So we're not trying to become un-American, because I'm very American and I believe in that as well. But what I'm saying is I'm for people having strong communities, and I think that's better for America. I'm for the concept that there are things. Remember, I said we're the same, but we're very different. Well, we at the end of the day, where we're different is culturally, and so there is something to. For an example, right? Everyone needs focus groups, right? You're a dad, right? It would be empowering for you to get with other fathers, 10 fathers, and just have a conversation with fathers. It would empower you, right? So that's a support group, right? what that same thing would do for you and that group of fathers, that's what community does for us daily.
Right.
Being around people who are like-minded, understand our experiences, and can speak to them, that's how the problems get solved. For instance, you brought up earlier the idea of African-American males and the differences in us going to jail or being on house arrest, right? So let's deal with the reality. The reality is African-American males are going to jail.
Yep.
Right? And so if we're going to jail and we're getting out, the facts are we're getting out and we have no rights. You can't get a job. So if you can't get a job, the system basically is setting you up to do the same thing again. So
or be on public assistance,
right?
Which they'll give you that cost, and then they'll criminalize you for using it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's crazy. So if you have that, right? So now all you can do, you're going to jail, right? You get out. When you have a community that is a support group, right? So I understand you. I know what you've been through. I see what you're going through, and I see your plight. Now, as a community, we begin to create answers to that. We go, okay, the system is now fighting you. So, for instance, I got a homeboy who, what he wants to build right now is not only build housing, but he wants to create, by touching different jobs, we begin to find people who will hire people with records. Right. So as a community, we start fixing the problems on our own because we're going, okay, these are affecting our own. So how do we make sure this guy gets out of jail and can find a job? Right. I can't make Microsoft hire you, right? I can't call up Bill and Paul and them cats and be like, yo, can you hire him?
But within the confines of that community,
I can pick up the phone and call the facts. I can pick up the phone and call KRIZ. I can call these other places and vouch for somebody and say, yo, this is a good cat who got caught up. Give him a shot.
Right.
You can start him on the bottom. Give him a shot, though. He's ready to make an honest day's living. So that's my point in terms of community being important. So back to my initial point of diversity. When I say diversity, for me, diversity is about us having strong communities within a larger community. I'm not saying that now African Americans don't need to work in Microsoft. No, we can work for you. You can work for us. I'm not saying that now white people don't need to work for Young Money Records. Work wherever you want to work. That's not my issue. I don't have any, and those are not my issues. My point is just there needs to be a place, just like you have a home, there's a place you call home. I want a place and a community where I can call home around. I say in the song, am I wrong for wanting to live around my own? I want a place where I can, the phrase is let your hair down. I want to let my hair down, man, and just be around my own, get strength, be around people of the same culture and community. And I don't want that attacked under some supposed greater concept of diversity.
So let's bring it back to gentrification, though, right?
Okay.
Because the community is a tremendous resource.
Mm-hmm.
It can, should, and will be. But if you destabilize the actual geographic nature of that community, then what do you have?
Nothing.
So you want to know why I use the word gentrification without remorse. You want to know why we get hundreds and hundreds of people coming out to an event at the EMP that Jonathan Cunningham and the other people put on about gentrification and these kind of issues. Well, that's why, right? You illustrate in a very plain manner this important function of community. And when you start destabilizing the physical boundaries of that community, then we have fucking problems. Problems for everybody. Because honestly, within this, you can take within the city of Seattle, I think it behooves all of us citywide if the communities within this city, within this group, are stable and functional. That's good for all of us.
Real quick, I don't know why some people can't see that. I was at look.
No, I know it's the same fucking people that are like anti-affirmative action.
Right. But hold on. But you know what? And I was about to say no, but you're right. They are. It is. I was out at West Seattle High School, right? So I spoke out there, and I love these kids. So let me say this: shout out to West Seattle High School.
Yeah.
What I love about speaking with youth is they're so much more raw and off the cusp. They're not politically correct. For instance, the police officer that didn't want us to say the word gentrification.
Yeah.
What you're saying is be politically correct. No, I won't. I'm hip hop. I'm gonna say the word. I'm gonna get it out there. I don't run from words. I'm not into that, right? So I know we're in a culture where we're all trying to respect each other, but there's a point where it goes so too far where it's like you want to take words off the table. Gentrification is a word, man. Get over it. If it makes you feel bad or makes you feel guilty, then you have another issue.
Ask yourself why.
Why, right? Yeah. So I'm out at West Seattle. These kids are amazing because they straight shoot you. And culturally, where I'm from, right? So culturally, if you're in corporate America, right? I have an issue with you in corporate America. So we're emailing back and forth because you know we're not going to talk. No one's going to talk.
No.
So we're emailing back and forth in corporate America, and I have an issue with you. The way I'm going to deal with you is I'm going to CC your boss on the next email, right?
Right.
So that I can show how incompetent you are
Right.
in front of your boss. I'm escalating on you.
Right.
Right. That's not how I do it, right? Where I'm from, if you got an issue with me, say your issue, right? I'm into a conversation. It doesn't have to be confrontational. It just means it's a respect level that says, hey, we got an issue here. Let's talk about it. Like, I'm not mad at you. You know what I'm saying? We're not even going there yet. It's just we got an issue. Let's air it out. Let's have a conversation like men. And I don't mean man to man, like, no, just like men. Like,
Right.
like, okay. So with these youth, I'm talking to them, and they're like that, which is what I love. They don't have any politically correctness in them. So
they don't have the time to build up a filter.
Right. So they say to me, isn't Africatown, so the question was, isn't Africatown segregation? Right? So that was their question. And I said, okay, let me flip it on you now. Right? We're in a packed arena, and they're saying, is Africatown segregation? And I said, it's Chinatown segregation.
Little Italy.
Right. So I'm flipping on them, and it was a girl. She says, well, no. And I'm like, okay, now let's stop here. I said, on a deeper level, you need to ask yourself, what is it in you that when African Americans wanted to build their own community and call it Africatown, went to segregation, whereas when the Asians were doing it, you just left them alone.
Right.
And I said, so what is that in you? Like, really take a minute. If you're really trying to find out, like, is there something in my heart not right? Ask yourself, why did I jump to that with them, but not with? And then so I asked that. She pulled out an answer. She was like, well, that's because Africatown's new. I was like, no, it's not. The name is new.
Right.
The name, the Africatown's not new. You're talking about your knowledge of the name might be new, but the concept of African Americans having a community is new. And so I just, I was like, you need to ask yourself, are you afraid of it? I said, what do you think we're gonna do? Plan a revolt? You think we're gonna plan revolution? Like what?
Yeah.
Don't let the blacks get together, because if they get together, they're gonna what? They're gonna be contributors of society, and they're gonna get rid of all of this poison that people are trying to feed us, and before you know it, we're thriving. That's it. And then the last point to that is, why can't you see that that's good for you?
It's good for everybody.
Right.
It's
We're gonna create jobs.
Right.
For everybody. Like let's be clear. When we start businesses, I just looked at the CEO of Jamba Juice was a black guy, right? Those are business. Famous Amos is a black guy.
Yep.
What do you think, that it's just black people working for those businesses? There's people feeding their families off of companies that we've started. So every time you put one of our own in jail, that could be an entrepreneur who's going to start the next whatever.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
Right.
And if he starts that company hires people, it's good for everybody. So.
Yeah. I mean, Africatown, the name is new. The community is not new, and the name is only new because you're trying to stem this tide of destabilization.
Right.
So
to slow the bleeding.
It's a branding effort.
Yeah. There's my
Yeah.
guy. You get it. It's a, I mean, between you and I don't always use that terminology, but yeah, that's what it is. It's like we got to get it to stick.
Yeah.
Long term, and it really, to be honest, Africatown is not just like I embody Africatown, right? my family, my mother and father, are both from Zimbabwe.
Right.
And so I'm born here, first generation American. You have immigrants coming into this country. So I'm first generation American. My mother and father were both contributors to the music culture of Seattle, credited with bringing Zimbabwean music to America. So that's a part of my legacy. I picked that up, and my daughter and myself were doing hip hop as well as African music, African dance. We're contributing. I'm starting businesses. So I get Africa Town. My goal in it is to help build a bridge, right? So with African Americans, you're displaced from Africa. I want to build a bridge and say to them, look, you do need to know where you're from. You need to know your source. And maybe you can't find the specific tribe where you come from. You can adopt mine.
Right.
You can come to Zimbabwe. You can rock and roll with us, right? But then at the same time, here in America, I want to say to Africans coming in here, hey, let's build a relationship with African Americans. Why? Because we're the same.
Right.
The same message we were talking about with the kids from Issaquah. Look, you guys are the same. And all the more in this country, you guys are the same. So let's not bicker about, well, I'm African American and I was born here and you have an accent and you're different. Like that's the slave stuff that they used to, the house niggas and this and the you know what I'm saying, like all of that, the field niggas and house niggas. We're not fighting amongst black people. At this point, it's about Africa Town, and let's all come together. Let's get stronger and let's contribute. That's really what it's about.
Right.
On all levels.
Yeah, because that kind of, you know, the stratification of communities, especially for you know, Americanized descendants of those communities and like new arrivals from those communities. Not to put too fine a point on it, but that's fucked up. That's incredibly fucked up. You know, I remember back at Franklin. I mean, you know, I observed. You know, there were some Asian kids who used to hang out on kind of the backside of the school, and they got called the boaters. Remember that?
Yep. Right?
And then there was kind of the other, you know, the more Americanized Asian kids that were kind of, they would be like, you know, way away from them. And it's so ugly, you know, because really there's an opportunity for love and for compassion and for understanding there, and what you get sometimes is the inverse of that. So something like that, what you're talking about, using Africa Town as a bridge to build between, you know, African Americans and newly arrived Africans in America that are, you know, I mean, you're all kind of on this same path, right? I mean, you are Americans now, and you're trying to appreciate where you come from and understand where you are.
Right. And figure it out.
Man.
and the cold part is both of these groups have what the other one needs.
Right.
So if you're here from Africa, you're going, man, how do I navigate this culture? And you need somebody who you can trust, okay?
Right.
Trust, because they're your brother, your sister who you can trust to guide you through it. And on the flip side, if you're African American, you're trying to reach back to your source. So you need someone that you can trust. And so you have what each other needs. However, you've been taught not to love each other, not to like each other, and gentrification just puts more in the way of that happening because it breaks us apart. You're fragmenting a community. If we have to see each other every day, we'll learn to love and to respect one another. If we have to see each other at the store and at the marketplace and talk to each other, and one of the greatest ways to get out of stereotypes and things like that is to get to know somebody. You know what I'm saying? So how many times do we, one of the greatest channels for this, I don't even like the channel, but it is great for this, is MTV. How many times do they put some sort of a subculture on television that you don't know anything about? You watch it and you start to go, oh, okay, that's it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They put something on television, a type of person that maybe you don't run into every day. They create a show around them, and they humanize them in a way where you can see the ways that you are similar, and it allows you to be more empathetic to somebody's cause, allows you to go, I didn't know that, and it strips away a lot of stuff. That same thing can happen when you live with someone in community.
Yeah. The only thing I worry about Man, do I really want to get all deep on this? This is a tangent. I'm not even. This is like a half-formed one. So we came up like in the gangster rap era, right?
Yes.
But
And I loved it. No offense.
how could you
Loved
not?
it.
How could you not?
Ice Cube. Can I say this? Because we're just talking hip hop.
Yeah.
Favorite rap group of all time, NWA. Still to this day. Now, my favorite intro, right, of all time. Just, I know this is like my hip hop rant. My favorite intro of all time. Fuck the police coming straight from the underground. That just, I mean, to this day, as a writer, I'm going, I've never written anything that enters like that.
Power in those words, man.
The anger and the aggression, I'm sitting here, I'm going, what? It's everything wrapped into one.
So
Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
nah, man. See, because I've actually I've tried to formulate a strong argument that Compton's Most Wanted was doper than NWA.
Nope.
And I understand that I'm wrong, but you have to listen to the first Compton's Most Wanted record. It's a Compton thing. Listen to the clean version and the dirty version because they have different tracks. Because we were doing that back then, right? Is you would have a clean version. There would be like one song that was on the clean joint. It was like something to dance to. You know what I mean? That was like NWA's clean record, right?
Yep, I remember that.
So on the Compton's Most Wanted tape, on the Compton's Most Wanted tape on the blue tape on
Dr.
Orpheus.
Dre would hate that right now. Somebody played that for him. He's like, hold on.
Remember when the cowbell comes in?
Come on,
Dude,
man.
with that slide. Okay. On the Compton's Most Wanted, it's a Compton thing on the blue tape, Orpheus Records. The clean version had a song called "We Made It," which is like, CMW at that time, DJ Slip, Unknown, 8, all those guys. Their production was so like sold.
Wait, can I say this though? Yes, Compton's Most Wanted classic. So don't hear anything in me that's saying that's not classic. Loved that album, absolutely. It's just NWA.
It doesn't have "Fuck the Police." It doesn't have "Gangster on it." It doesn't have
that movement though. Like the idea that what they were doing at the time, it was imprint. It was an imprint on me because for whatever reasons. But even now when I look back, I have such a respect for the revolution that they created.
Yep.
It's like, what did you say?
Gangster. That's what they're yelling.
And it wasn't just what did you say, but it was a movement. Like you're really saying something. Why do you know? Okay, let's take the NFL right now. The N-word, right? Why do I call myself a nigga? You ask me. Like the stuff they were taking on. You look back now and you go, wow, you guys like right now that's relevant today.
Right.
And you guys was taking this on when?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? When you look at what police are doing, they're talking about putting cameras on policemen right now so that they can track what policemen are doing. That's one cause or one reason for it.
Oh, but then there's the facial recognition shit, too.
I hate that stuff. But they want to put cameras on policemen, right? So that idea... For me, the idea of tracking a policeman and what they do is something that we could probably use. They need some accountability. But NWA was tackling these concepts back then and speaking out in a way that maybe you didn't like the way they said it. I get it. To the lady who's sitting there going, I just can't get down with that. I get it. However, man, they had balls. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so let me bring it back, right? So we came up in that gangster rap era, right?
Yeah.
NWA, MC Pooh, Spice One, Ghetto Boys, Scarface.
All of that. All of that.
You can just unilaterally say all that shit, right? And but my perception was always like, well, you knew that like Dr. Dre was not gang banging that way. I mean, there was like, well, I mean, these are probably some pretty tough guys, but like, I don't know. I mean, there was like what you were saying. There was an imparted message. It wasn't just like completely like off topic there's no remorse. You know, the shit is just like, it wasn't always like that. I don't know. It seemed like there was just more of a, I don't know.
Some of it was
Some of it certainly was.
yeah. Some of it was. I mean, it's the other part is this is hip hop, and then people look at things like they're young too, man. There's another part where it's like the same thing I'm saying at 22, I'm not saying at 32. So there's a
Right.
part of it that's like Dr. Dre's not saying that right now because he's 40 something. You know what I'm saying? He's the same guy. He still feels the same way. He's just evolved in the way that he would go about, you know, completing his agenda. I'm sure there's a few things he probably feels different about, but to me, I don't know. I loved it, even though I can admit some of it just wasn't healthy. There was a lot of it that I'm just like, okay, this is just belligerent for nothing. But
For sure, for
Right.
sure. But okay, so let me try to actually get this suggestion out and see if I completely fail or not. So gangster rap back when we came up was different than, like, I guess what you might call gangster rap now, I think.
who's doing gangster rap right now?
Well, I don't know, because it's just kind of everybody. You know, every rapper you know that's popular other than Drake, it seems like they're all like, everybody's moving coke. Everybody's moving coke. Everybody has people that will put you in their dirt. They have little homies that, like, everybody has that shit. There's no difference in tone, right?
Mhm.
So what you were talking about is MTV is like kind of this channel, right, for exposing you to people of backgrounds that are different than yours. So one of the things that concerns me, I guess, is that, like, if we're using hip hop music to do that in a certain respect,
Okay.
if gangster rap of now or whatever could be called that is like, it's not the same as what it once was. So are you really informing what this other communities? Are you humanizing people or are you dehumanizing them? You dig what I'm saying? I think I really made that
Yeah.
argument in a fucked up fashion, but
No, I get what you're saying.
it's just,
And
I don't know.
think
It's like I hear a lot of that shit, you know, a
It's-
lot of new shit, and I don't hear, I don't know.
I think, and I can't compare the past to now. They're so different in so many ways. For me, it's really, really hard. The time is different. Hip hop is different. The state of hip hop is different. So the purpose is different.
Right.
There was a time where that's what we needed. It was a story that needed to be told. And this is my opinion, right? Right now, I challenge how much that story needs to be told. And so for some people, because like at that time, hip hop wasn't it wasn't as big as it is now.
Right.
Right? So now, I mean, we are pop. We are pop music. By definition, hip hop is popular music. Now the style is not stylistically pop, but we are one of the themes of popular music.
Yep.
And so when you say that, it's like, yeah, at this point, yeah, there is some glamorization of some things. It is like a religion in that people become converts, and converts are a scary thing. And so if what you're converting people to is gangster rap, then yeah, you have now converted somebody in middle America or in the suburbs to gangster rap, to living the lifestyle of a gangster. And whether you like it or not, that same dude will shoot you. You might be like, he's a sucker, but if he pulls out a gun and shoots, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
He pulled out a gun and he shot.
Right.
So at the end of the day, yeah, it does that, which gets into larger issues. Like that's why I don't do that type of music.
Right.
That's why, you know, aside from the fact that ain't me, I ain't no gangster, but you know, it needs balance. So that's where
Right.
my cause comes in, to be able to, all right, let's balance out the game.
Right.
And I think back then, when you looked at NWA, it was an issue of the time. That's the difference. You know, I cannot be honest when it comes to that whole thing you were just talking about. Like, I'm sick of, personally, I don't have any room for those. Yo, I'm just, when you ask, what are you doing? I'm just speaking what's real. You know what I'm saying? I'm just spitting what's real. Shut up, man. Like, I get it. Is there nothing else real in your life besides cocaine? And, you know, so they'll talk about
Cocaine
women
and getting drunk and
Right.
getting high.
or women as bees, and it's like, okay, so I'm just talking about the women who act like that. So So you don't know any other women who don't? So where's that other woman
Where's
in
your
your
mother?
song? Yeah, where's your mom in your song? Where's your aunt?
Yeah.
Where's your cousin? Where's your homegirl in school who's still your homegirl to this day and calls you up and checks you and laughs with you? Where's she at in your music? No, the reality is it's a cop-out. You're doing what's easy to do. You're a pawn. You're a clown. You know, and I think the game needs balance, though. Like, I was just asked in an interview the other day about Rick Ross. And, like, how do you feel about Rick Ross? And I was like, dig it. And they're like, wow, you like Rick Ross? I said, he's good for the game. He's balanced to the game. And what I mean by that is the music is going in so many different directions. Some of the music is getting poppy. Like, I don't like Kanye's direction right now and all that. And I'm not, all of that. I'm not into pop hip-hop. Like, I'm not into that. And so when the music gets really poppy, you need somebody doing what Ross is doing.
Some grimy, yeah.
Yeah, you need something to balance it out. Because if we get too pop, that's how we get weeded out. At some point, as African Americans, we're going to find ourselves, the real's going to get weeded out if everybody's going poppy. Because eventually they're going to go, well, if you're going to do pop music, well, then why do I need you? I'm going to get a white kid to do the pop music.
Yeah, you know, the crazy thing about 2014 is that I think you're exactly right. Ross is the guy that kind of presents that grime nowadays. But he is, in fact, a dude who is a correctional facilities officer who bit his whole persona off of another guy who actually lived that lifestyle. That's 2014 shit for you right there.
Oh, God. That is deep. I'm saying when you think about the state of the game, the fact that that's what's thriving, there is... Let's be honest, America. We all love Ross. But he jacked his whole persona. Like, what do you do when you're like, yo, man, you're not even Rick Ross. And in addition to, there's a lot to that I think. I think
Noriega, the real Noriega.
Right.
Like, son, no, you don't.
Well, that's like what, oh boy, though. I think that's what drives somebody like 50 Cent angry. Because 50's a guy who's going, look, I've done it, and I still do it, and I'm repping the streets. And I think his frustration in some regard is like, how are we letting someone get away with this? Like, how are we not? And what it does for me is hip-hop doesn't self-check like it used to. And the reason why, here's my philosophy on it, hip-hop used to self-check. But when we started getting money, self-check got taken away.
And now you just had checks.
Right. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to ruin this money I'm getting.
Right.
Or I don't want to piss my man off, and I just saw him at the Grammys, so I don't want to piss him off, even though his music is clown music. I'm not going to call him on it no more.
Right.
Back in the day, you used to have people, like I remember Ice Cube. I'm sick of niggas all in the parties trying to outdance each other. You know what I'm saying? He would. Everybody in a rhyme would just say something that just kind of weeded it out. Even shout out to Jay-Z doing like the death of the auto-tune. It was like at a moment where it was getting really bad and it needed to be weeded out. 50 Cent, when he came with the Ja Rules, he was just like, yo, this is getting too much.
Well, and even before that, MC Ren. You know, R&B singers in the goddamn breaks. Right. Like that was a real. There was a real backlash. It was like people started to worry that hip hop was getting kind of soft, and like Kwame with the polka dots, even though Kwame was dope.
He was.
You know, but that was a legitimate concern. Is like, you know, this should be an authentic thing, and it's like, nah.
The Bad Boy run, and Puffy taking old hits and making hits. So all of the hits were like hip hop used to self-check. And then when you have people getting money, everybody's making money. So you're making money, nobody even cares to self-check. They're like, yo, I'm trying to keep this deal with Verizon, man. I'm trying to, you see what I'm saying? Like, I need to get this money. I'm not worried about,
Ross needs to keep his deal with Reebok.
Right. You see what I'm saying?
Instead of saying fucking weird shit about possibly raping chicks, like, dog, what are you doing?
I literally say, hip-hop used to self-check. It does not anymore as much. And because of that, and the people who do try to, a la 50 Cent or somebody who will come out and say something, we're trying to hit mute on them right now.
Yeah.
And so you take that away, it's kind of like, I call these people Michael Jordan's kids, right? And the reason why is because Mike represented, for our generation, the first guy getting that money.
Yeah.
Right? So Mike starts getting that money. He's making real money. And he made so much money, but Mike never stood for anything. Not one cause. You can't really, you very rarely can go back.
He's caught a lot of flack for being kind of very,
money
in the middle.
Well,
like,
where, some of the interviews and the advice from people, when you hear about his advice that he's given to people over the time, it always was this kind of shut up, play the field, and you'll get your money. And it's like, yo, you serve that dollar, but you don't serve the better interests of the people. And so sometimes, like, that's what you have, is these people who are all about, yo, if you shut up, yo, I'm telling you, Samsung is going to do your next tour.
Right.
Sprite will get you that commercial.
Right.
That's the difference between them and me. No, won't do it. Now, mind you, I'm not saying I wouldn't take an endorsement deal. I am saying you won't control me. I'm saying what I have to say. I'm going to do what I have to do. I'm not going to be bought, and better yet, I'm not going to be owned. So you have a bunch of people who are owned, so they can't say anything. They have too many interests. It's like a politician. Politicians get so high, and you wonder, why won't you speak out against, why won't you try to solve, let's take something simple, right? Something simple in America, right? So we'll take something like the food that we eat, right? We all know GMOs. They're horrible.
Not really great for you.
Right, probably, right, there we go. Not probably what you want to be eating, genetically modified foods.
And you know what? Maybe we just don't even know, but to just be like, yeah, it's kosher. Yeah, the fuck we know.
Right. So, right, genetically modified foods probably not good for you, right? So you have politicians who won't take this on, right? Why? Because they're bought off. The same guy who owns the genetically modified the seeds gave you $4 million for your campaign. It's hush money.
You can't, and you can't go against Monsanto. Good fucking luck.
Right. So take that concept and apply it over to hip hop. I can't speak out against anything because now those same people own my record label. That same person pays my bills. And if I speak out, I get a phone call saying, yo, you might want to shut up or your next album is going to be shelved.
Yep.
So you're bought and you're owned.
You know what's crazy, though, is that arrangement is so anti-internet. Because the reality is that we have this platform where you can touch everybody. Right. And what you can do is you can cut out the middleman. And it's like this old method where it's like you need to be dependent on a Sprint or a Samsung or Live Nation or somebody like that to make you viable to touch people. That's not necessarily true anymore. You know
what it is? It's laziness.
But they have a vehicle.
Yeah. But it's laziness.
Yeah.
The idea is, yo, I don't need them, but if I have them, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
So I'm lazy. I don't want to grind no more. I don't want to hustle. I want my grind to be different. You got rappers, yo, I'm hustling. You're not hustling. You're making phone calls.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what's up. I mean, you've earned it. You're there. I ain't angry about it. At some point, I want to make some phone calls.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you damn sure don't want to be street teaming your whole life. But, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, when we were at the Mohai.
Okay.
And you were talking before you guys performed. You did a song about like being an artist in hip hop at our age.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really, really interesting because I've always been kind of like this idea that you're not supposed to be allowed to age in hip hop has really bugged me the fuck out. Because right now we're in this era where like our gods are still around. Like they're still here. Africa Bambaataa was in Seattle like 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Kool Herc still here. Grandmaster Flash still here.
Right.
Chuck D, Cool G Rap, Big Daddy. I mean, you could just go down the line, right? And it's really concerning to me that we don't appreciate our own history. And I, I don't know, maybe I'm unfounded in that, but it really, this kind of like this continual like devouring of kind of the old guard really concerns me.
So what you're talking about is the name of my album. It's gonna be called Dreams Die Hard.
We didn't plan this.
No. The name of the album is gonna be called Dreams Die Hard.
Okay.
And so the song.
I love it, by the way.
Thank you. The song comes out of a very real place. I went through a season where, you should start getting active on your rhymes. Season. So I had took kind of a pause for the cause to focus on my family. Like, yo, me and my lady got back together. I want to focus on that for a little bit, and give my energy to that. And then once that's secure, the next thing becomes purpose. Like, what were you born to do? That's what you put your hands on, right? When everything's good, when your money's straight, your bills are straight. If you, in a perfect world, let's say right now you woke up tomorrow and everything was straight. So let's just say you got some money in the bank, you're comfortable, your kids are good, you're not worried about nothing. You would immediately reach to that thing that gave you, you'd be sitting here doing a podcast. You know what I'm saying? You would go to purpose. You would go to whatever births out of you, right?
So I can tell you what I'd do.
What'd you do? What would you do?
No bullshit. I would find every single person that wrote a verse on Untranslated. I would find every single person that wrote a verse on Do the Math. I would get contracts in front of them. Mm-hmm. I would get that shit officially published, and I would get it on Spotify, and I would get it on iTunes, and I would want people to eat off of what they made.
Now stop for a second. What you're doing now is already that. The pace is slower. The pace is
hella slow.
Yeah, because the worries, the life, everything.
Right.
Now I said if you woke up tomorrow and everything was good. That's not where you are. Right now you're at the place where you still have to worry about the bills and going to the job and da-da-da-da. So the purpose, it doesn't get stopped. It gets delayed a little bit, or the timing of it shifts, right? Which really, a lot of times, is you're actually right on time. You don't know it, but nonetheless. So my point was, with me, I got this song, Dreams Die Hard. And I start everywhere I would go places and be like, oh, what's up with you? You see somebody, what's up with you? Right. So you're hollering at, man, I'm good, da-da-da-da-da, man, about to do all these rhymes. And they're like, oh, you still rapping? Like, it just kind of had that, like, oh, so you're still, like, they didn't expect that out of me. Like, you're still doing that. And me, I'm like, what do you mean am I still doing that?
Yeah.
I did not even know I was going to write that. I put the pen to the pad and that just came out. Because it was what I was frustrated with, the question, you still rapping? And there's a piece of me that's like, yeah, I'm still rapping. I had one of my business partners, one of them, he told me, he was like, yo, I'm just saying, I think it might have passed you by, right? So this is what he said. He hadn't heard anything, though. He hasn't heard any of my music. Right. So when we do business, it's a non-music business. It's just straight
business relationship.
Right. I don't play music. I don't talk about it. So much so that he thought I was done rapping, right? And so he was like, oh, you're rapping? And I was like, yeah. It was just kind of like, he's like, so, he's like, man, I'm just saying. And I think he thought he was giving me advice and putting me down easy or whatever. Yeah. So I had to proceed, like, on a personal level, though. This is what I'm born to do. This is one of the things I'm born to do.
Right.
I'm born into a musical family. Music is something I'm going to do. It's not an age thing. I don't do it for popular culture. So when you look at it and you go, oh, but you're not going to be like...
Because that's the framework, right?
Right. So in their minds, it's like, you want to be on Young Money and be Tigger. Yo, no, I don't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Mind you, I'll take the deal, but that's not the goal per se, right? So when they're looking at it, it's like, well, you're never going to be that. Don't care. Like, so then... I remember I was talking to him, and I was like, okay. So he's like, so what's your goal? What are you doing? So I challenge all of those notions, right? To me, the day of rap being controlled, how can I say? The day of us believing the lie should be over. What I mean by the lie is, for instance, I'm a Christian. as a Christian, the lie that Hollywood tells you is that you don't have power because no movies reflect your lifestyle and your cause.
Right.
And then you turn around and you release something like The Passion and it does $1 billion and you go, wait, we're there. And somebody's like, no, don't let them know. Don't let them see. The lie would be, as African Americans, you're not powerful in Hollywood. However, the person who made the most money in Hollywood last year was Tyler Perry. So there's something going, wait a minute.
Well, and if it wasn't Tyler Perry, it was The Rock.
Right.
Who is?
Yeah. Right. So you're powerful beyond measure, but don't believe the lie. So the same for me in hip hop, the lie is that as a hip hop artist, the lie for us at this point in this day and age is that hip hop's a young man's game. Mind you, I'm not talking about I know that most of our patriarchs that are in it now are older. I know Eminem's 40 plus. I know Jay-Z's 40 plus.
Jay's 40 something.
Right. Everybody's old, right? But I'm saying the idea that to launch into the game you got to be 19.
Right.
What I'm saying is there's nobody in hip hop telling the story of my story. And what I mean by that is I'm a grown man.
Right.
I got bills like the next man. I'm not broke. So I don't got to tell that story. I don't got to tell that struggling, hustling, living check to check, how we going to get it, son. That's not my story.
Right.
But I'm not balling either. Right? I'm not doing this. So where is the guy telling the story of the real man who has a lady? He ain't trying to cheat on her. He's just living real life. I'm not trying to be a pimp. I love my family. I love my sister, my family, my friends. Go to work every day, right? Pay my bills. Not rich, not broke. Might buy a house, try to flip that and get another one. Just normal life stuff.
Right.
Not accumulating wealth person to person. So the lie is that there's no lane for that. The truth is there's more of us than there are of them.
Right.
They're selling an image. I'm connecting with people who are really living. So what's gonna happen is they're gonna see a niche. And at the end of the day, while they would want to suppress me in what I'm doing, because my movement is not beneficial to what they like to do to the minds of people, at the end of the day, they serve money. So as long as I hit, they'll rock with me too. They'll be like, oh, right. He's making money. Let's launch a whole bunch of real men out there now.
Right.
So Dreams Die Hard is out of that. It's out of a guy who had a dream, and dreams die hard, and so I'm gonna keep pushing. And I'm also saying to people doing any dream, man, just keep rocking. If don't nobody believe in you and you feel it, do it.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just a beautiful thing because it gets right down to kind of the core of who you are and what you're supposed to do on this earth, and I think it's as men, I think.
Oh, Vitamin did the track too. Shout out to Vitamin D.
Shout out to the God Vitamin, Vitamin Derek, aka the Phantom.
Man.
As men, I think when you get older and you get stability in your marriage and your family, it's kind of natural for that to become your focus. But then when you attain that amount of focus, it's things start to settle. And I don't mean once you get past the brand new baby stage and everybody's mostly sleeping.
Right.
It's like you kind of get that calling. It's like I gotta scratch that. I gotta scratch that. Yeah.
You're a man. And when I say a man, a human. You're a person. You're here to do something. So at some point, if something doesn't start knocking on your door, going, "Yo, do something," you're allotted a certain amount of time here. What are you gonna? What's your mark? What's your imprint on a person, or society, or a community? Do something. I don't care if you're knitting quilts. Do something.
And it doesn't have to be. It doesn't even have to be art.
Right.
I remember as a kid being in my grandpa's workshop, and I can tell you to this day, man, it smelled like cut wood. like not just like cut wood, you know, and it smelled like wood and it smelled like candles because he used to make candles and he had like tools, top to bottom, every shelf, everything, and he spent a lot of time in that workshop, you know, and I think for my grandpa, it was like, you know, once you have the stability, you know, you bring human beings into this world, right? You create a foundation for your legacy to live on. It's like, well, you know, what scratches that itch?
Yeah.
You know, and for some people, it's music. And it's like I have this individual perspective that I'm going to transcode and put into song. And I'm going to put this out there, and it's valid if no one listens.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's completely valid. The validity and the worth of that statement has in no fucking way, shape, or form anything to do with the number of clicks or hits it gets.
Can I say that? That's the part that doesn't connect with people.
Yeah.
My guy said when I talked to him about my music, and he was like, "Well, it's passed you by." His thought process, he couldn't imagine that. I felt like that. Like, yo, if I don't get do I want 1 million hits? Yes. If I don't get them, am I crushed? No. So my music is no more or no less valid. It's one thing to say that. It's another thing to feel that. And I think that's why the record connects with people, because it genuinely is from a place of like, I'm going to keep rapping whether y'all are listening or not. Because there's self-expression in it for me.
Right.
There's a part of it that's just fulfilling a purpose is a part of your worship. There's something about something functioning the way it's supposed to function, right? You set a microphone up, it functions, right? Like, ooh, that's filthy. A producer makes a beat. He sets up this beat. He goes, ooh. A baker makes a cake. She puts the frosting on it. She tricks it out. She looks at the cake and she's like, ooh. And then people cut it at the wedding and they eat it. There's something beautiful about anything functioning the way it's supposed to function, right? To me, that's how God is. God's looking at him like, God's looking at us going, ooh. When Devin sets up his mic and he does his interview, God's going, ooh, yes, like that thing I created is doing what I created it to do.
It's truth.
Right.
I mean, it's the truth. It's the truth in the implement, or it's the truth in the expression.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Bob Ross, guy used to paint on TV with the happy little trees.
Love him.
The idea is that Bob Ross would have been painting those same happy little trees if he didn't have a TV show.
Right.
And I would put forward the idea that hip-hop music, rap music, however you want to call it, that expression is no less valid than a painter's.
Right.
And so it's enduring. You know what I mean? Like, and what we should be able to see, what I would love to be able to see is for people of our era to continue to produce, because the music, friend of mine sent me a link to a song whose title was My N Word.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't fuck with that disgusting word.
Right.
So I'm not going to say it.
I'm not mad at you.
But you know what I'm talking about, right? And I'm listening to it, and it's like, it's a little catchy, like, and it's like disturbingly catchy. But then there's kind of this thing in the back of my mind. It's like, this is not in any way, shape, or form relevant to me. And it's not like back in the day when I'm listening to NWA or I'm listening to Compton's Most Wanted, or any of that stuff. And it's like,
I know the song. Now
like,
that you just hit me, I know the song, right? And it's very catchy.
Yes, and it's like, I wonder if it's just a shift in perspective, right? Because when I'm young, and I'm listening to Spice One, that Triad Records tape that had Ant Banks did all the production on it, and it was like 4 or 5 joints on there. It's like, it's almost like he's portraying a character, right? And as a young man, it's like you can escape into that character.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not a young man anymore. I'm gonna be 37 this year, and I can't even relate to the record that way, right? So when I listen to that the chorus in that song, it's like the music is, yeah, I'll give it to you. It's kind of catchy and shit. But it's fucking repulsive at the same time, because I'm not there. You know what I mean? And I'm not, and I don't even know. I wouldn't be there if it didn't have that word in it either. You know what I mean?
So, and again, what I'm saying to you, that's what my music's for. My music is for the guy who's going, you know what? I'm just not there. But for me, the difference is I'm not going to knock the kid who is, because I was.
Right.
So if I'm 19 right now, it's
not mutually exclusive.
Right.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm not there. I'm also one of the people who says, if you have a problem with the way people are doing it, then just do something different. Show them a new way. And that will be not. You don't have to knock it. You can just do the right way. Balance the game. So I'm just here to balance it out.
I dig it.
I'm a piece to the puzzle, man.
Well, you know, I mean, I remember we used to stomp around the halls at Franklin High School, and I remember the first time you told me you rapped, and you were like, "Yo, I'm going to the studio. I'm gonna cut some songs," and I was like. Yeah, it was just like what? Like we can do that?
Right.
Like people are like we're doing that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just I don't know. To me, the fact that the dream does die hard is that's just a beautiful thing, man. Because you could take that and apply it to just about anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you want to be in the workshop making candles like my grandpa, or if you want to get your Bob Ross on. Paint your painting, and really, again, you know, we're talking about the function of communities and how it benefits society. I would go so far as to say that on an individual level, you know, when you, again, like you say, strip all that shit away, the thing that you are compelled to do at that point is what what enriches you in that way. It's good for all of us if we all find that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And it's especially, I think, important for men. You know.
What you just said, tying it's the same as community. Exactly the same. Like if it's better for me that the 10 people next to me find their purpose, because even in plain reality, what ends up happening, right? What you have in society, right, is a community. Let's say we have different communities, right? And one community, for whatever reason, is not able to perform at a high level. What ends up happening is they begin to pull us down. So it's like if me and you are standing up and I'm falling, now you're trying to support me with your weight. Right. And that's what you have. While I don't agree with a lot of what Republicans say and a lot of their attitudes, I get what they're feeling is, man, these guys are pulling society down. So they're kind of their philosophy is let's just cut them off. I don't need them. Right.
And it's kind of seductive, you know. They put forward that idea that it's like that it's that easy, that this whole kind of pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality. It's just snap your fingers and we're going to ignore, you know, whatever patterns of institutionalized bullshit that perpetrate the same conditions that you're trying to criminalize.
Right. And so you have, in a society, you have that, right? It's the same thing in life. If I live around people where I'm walking in my call, but you don't walk in your call. For instance, i.e., I use an example of ball players. I'm around a lot of the hoop players from Seattle, right? The ball players. So you got this ball player who's a massive person. He's in his purpose, right? He's getting multi-millions of dollars to dribble the ball. But then he's got 6 homeboys around him who don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So what are they doing? They're just a drain.
Yeah.
They're following him around, walking around, because they haven't found their lane, right? And it becomes a drain.
Right.
A lot of them end up cutting some of these dudes off because it's like, yo, you just got your hand out, or you just got your. And the point is,
right? Because it's like if the posse is 10 deep, maybe one of those persons calling is to be a personal assistant, but it ain't 10.
It ain't 10. Right. And that's my point when it comes to dreams, is that it's important for everyone around me to find their dream and to find contentment in that. So you can't be tied into the world's concepts around success. Just like with my dream, I can't lock into platinum, gold, multi-platinum. Success has to be based out of a self-expression and what you're creating and a love for what you do. whatever that is. And so if that's your job, maybe everybody can't be a head. There's got to be parts to a body. So maybe your job is to be a personal assistant to somebody at Microsoft. Be the best personal assistant there is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Maybe you just work in a bakery and you're the baker there and you work for the company and you're never going to leave. Help them build that bakery into the biggest bakery in the state. Whatever the vision is, you go at it hard, you achieve your dream, and that's really the message of the Dreams Die Hard. It's like, yo, get it.
I love it.
It's going to touch people, man.
I love it.
It's empowering, man.
I love it.
It's empowering.
I love it. We should probably end there.
Yep, we're good. Whoa, we got to give them a shout out to, go to Draze 206 at Draze 206. Also, my website, www.draze206.com. Make sure you log on, go online on YouTube, and look at the video. Actually, it's on my website, but go look at The Hood Ain't the Same. It's super dope. Featuring me, but directed by the man next to me. So you guys are getting something real special to get us together. I don't think we've ever done anything this just kind of off the cusp, candid conversation.
Not recorded. We got a lot of them in the back pocket, but not recorded like this.
Right.
Yeah, so go check out the video. Salute to the 3 people that clicked that dislike button on it. I only say that to say I hope that whatever is making you unsatisfied in life, you were able to maybe overcome a certain amount of that by hating on our shit. Like, I don't even care like that. I have empathy for you.
Indeed.
And for the rest of you that really appreciated it, like I said before, it was just an absolute privilege to be able to do with that. And if it functions as a way to get people to talk, and I can take any kind of claim for being involved with it, it's just a privilege. It's an absolute privilege.
Thank you. My God. Oh, and go look up Nia J while you're at it too. Nia J. He shot Nia J's video. I know he's done. He said he's retired. He's not doing videos, but there are more coming out that he shot because they're in the can. So
yeah, we got some joints in the can. That'll be pretty dope. Hopefully you'll check them out. Coming up next, I'm not even going to put it out there. We have some more guests coming up in the course of the month of March and April for the Do the Math podcast. You can find us on Twitter. It's all Do the Math Show. YouTube, Do the Math Show. Yeah, get at us. Dreams die hard. Find that thing that scratches back here and fucking do it. And it'll make you happier, and it'll make the world around you a beautiful place.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're signing off. I am Devin Morgan. He is Draze, a.k.a. Doomy, a.k.a. my friend for a long time. You guys have a good night.
Peace.
Peace.
Five come to the tribal dum dum.